Hi guys, welcome to Vanessa and Joel's Digital Equity in Today's Classrooms website. We decided to do a website instead of a PowerPoint presentation to make it more of a living document. Here, our future staffs and this cohort could interact with the material as things change because as we know, technology is constantly moving forward. Here on our website, we're going to start addressing the digital divide through access and opportunity. And with our leadership lens, we want to gain not only a better understanding of the issues facing our students and teachers, but address the ways we can support them in finding these solutions to the issues. We will therefore reference the LQS throughout this presentation to kind of put that leadership lens on everything and guide our practice in how it applies to technology and these issues. At the end, we're going to share our solutions and tech tools in regards to device access, internet access, teaching and learning, and technology usage. Research and analysis. First of all, a shout out to my partner Vanessa, who made this interactive infographic on the website VisMe. This website resource will be available later in our presentation on the section about technology usage. We began our research on the digital inequity with the research of Paul Attawell and his discussion about the first and second digital divides. Attawell believed that the first digital divide began with the gap in access, and that is driven by a large part by the income inequality and educational differences. Because as technology continues to move forward, as leaders, we must figure out a way to bridge the gap within our student populations. Because according to our LQS, we must ensure that every student has access to optimum learning experiences through a use of a variety of technologies. And we must represent the needs of our students at the community, school authority, and provincial level. His second digital divide became in the use of the gap of usage. And this comes down to the ways in which technology is used at home and at school. Attawell studied the book Failure to Connect by Jane Healy, where she seemed to highlight the negative effects of technology, including shortened attention span in students. Healy indicated that effective usage of technology happens when students receive relevant educational material, but also increased enthusiasm and attention during these activities. The gap therefore comes from ineffective teaching and modeling of the correct usage of technology. Our second resource was Justin Reich's article on teaching our way to digital inequity, which references the previous work of Attawell and that study. Reich's goal was to address the issue of usage through the lens of a SAMR model. Leaders have a model to describe the ideal trajectory to push their teachers. Yet, most leaders don't. So why? According to Reich, technology is seen to accelerate inequality within schools and between schools. So the first step towards digital equity is helping educators learn everything they can about equitable teaching practices in general. According to the LQS, as leaders, we must foster these effective relationships with staff and in turn our students. Teachers, therefore, must be encouraged to connect technology use to students' outside interests. Reich's example is using a student's interest in gaming to connect to coding, programming, and marketing careers. Making our opportunities and pathways in technology ones that engage all students is extremely important. Educational tech can improve teaching and student learning, but it must start with a commitment to digital usage equity.
In order to begin addressing the issues pertaining to digital equity in terms of usage, we first had to gain a deeper understanding of where and how the gap presented itself. One of the strongest resources we found is the gap. This ISTE-created resource directly addressed the issue of inequity that exists amongst teachers and how that inevitably affects students. Schaefer, Howard, and Thomas state that forcing shining new technology tools into adoption while the learning and purpose for the integration of these new tools lags behind is no longer an acceptable practice. They directly acknowledge the ISTE standard for educators by looking at them as learners, citizens, and facilitators, continually improving their practice so that they can leverage technology to improve student learning, inspire students to positively contribute to, and responsibly participate in the digital world. In summary, the ISTE standard directly addressed issues with inequity for teachers and students. This resource also goes on to explore the idea of self-directed professional learning. The idea being that contrary to professional development, where participants sit and get, professional learning offers educators opportunities to choose their own adventure, connect to learning opportunities in authentic and relevant ways, Technology tools such as social media, video streaming, and podcasts offer unique experiences for educators to access current and practical ideas. It also gives them the ability to apply their new learning in their own unique context. For example, there are many Facebook groups created for professionals to share ideas and resources on virtually any topic, and it's or researchers on Twitter, where they are actively involved in sharing their knowledge with others. The last piece of this resource that we found intriguing discusses the why behind closing the gap that exists in teachers' technology competency and usage. And that is because that we are charged with creating strong digital citizens in our students. And it's a key component in the pursuit of digital equity. In 2018, a woman by the name of Marie Heath proposed 3 models of digital citizenship. The first being personally responsible citizens, where we're working towards building responsibility and character. The second being participatory citizens, where they actively engage in organizing social change. And the third being justice-oriented citizens, where they use social media and technology tools to help them interrogate established and oppressive norms. As you can see, digital equity and digital citizenship go hand in hand. It's also important for us to remember that the inequities that exist for our students related to learning also exist for our teachers. We must support them in their learning, meet them where they're at, and help them to understand why the use of digital technology in education is valuable and important. Which brings us to our last resource, a study titled Gradations in Digital Inclusion. Children and Young People and the Digital Divide. This study, although conducted predominantly in the UK, looked at the factors that influence technology use, mostly outside of the school setting. In their research, they found that the digital divide in relation to children is no longer about haves and have-nots, but it's more commonly about users and non-users. They propose a shift in how we view digital inequity. As a deficit, we start to shift our focus more to an inclusive lens. By looking at what technology users are able to do or the purpose they have for accessing the digital world, we can meet them where they're at and work to help of technology use. Livingstone and Health primarily access technology for information as information seekers, moderate users as those who engage in game-based activities and basic communication tools like email. Moving into broader users, these individuals who not only seek information, they also use technology as a form of entertainment and communication. On the far right of the continuum, we see the all-round user who accesses technology for means of creative outlet and interaction. Acknowledge that we are all at varying levels of ability, skill, and interest. In regards to technology use, we can use that as a starting point for progress in a more meaningful way.
Device access, a growing and important issue in today's educational world. Depending on where you live or your school division, your access to devices may be completely different. Some urban centers in very fortunate communities have almost 1-to-1 ratios between technology and students, while other communities, rural communities, or indigenous communities may be falling behind. This is where we can help. We are going to give you access to grants and programs that give you technology in education. Because, as we know, as an effective leader, we must be able to understand and respond to these larger societal contexts. This is right from our LQS. And we must demonstrate this understanding of local, provincial, national, and even international issues and these trends and their implication on education. Device access is a huge one. So as a future leader, we must contribute to older technology to these programs, and this is our way of giving back and helping bridge that gap. Some of the grants that we have listed here that we have access to are Best Buy School Tech Grants that give grants up to $10,000 for technology. The Computers for School program in Alberta that helps give refurbished technology back to schools. There's also the Computers for Schools Plus program that is a national program. And finally, the Electronic Recycling Association. This nonprofit organization refurbishes technology that is donated, and gives it back to charities and schools across the country.
This video speaks to our digital future. And although it pertains to Ontario, it's important that we recognize that access to technology is the starting point for our digital journey. As leaders, the LQS asks us to pay that we need to understand and respond to larger societal context. And in order to do that, in terms of digital technology, we have to recognize that there is an issue with access to the internet. Recently, the Canadian government dedicated billions of dollars to improving broadband infrastructure for all Canadians. Here, there's access to this, what they call the Universal Broadband Fund. All Canadians, 100% of Canadians, access to the internet by 2030. You can read more by clicking on the Universal Broadband Fund banner link within this page. We wanted to show you a few offline tools that support learning because we're being asked to respond to the ever-changing needs. And, in a global pandemic, what we need to do is ensure that students can access what it is we need to teach them, both virtually and in person. We wanted to highlight 2 tools that are going to help. So I'm going to show this video on our first tool.
The solution to the digital divide in education. Hi guys, welcome to my presentation about Colibri. But what is it? Colibri is a platform that makes high-quality education technology available in low-resource communities such as rural schools, refugee camps, and orphanages, and much more. But how does it work? So what you first must do is connect any device to a Wi-Fi network and download the amazing Colibri platforms and curriculum and lesson plans. After that, you take the technology and share it between other devices through an offline network, including content and lessons. But what devices can be used? Colibri is designed to run on as many devices and operating systems as possible. Here they are in Africa and India, using technology that was disposable to them. Leftover technology that we don't use anymore is sometimes donated to these communities. Thank you for listening to my presentation about Colibri. We're bridging the digital gap.
So our first tool is Colibri. There's another video that shows you exactly how to use the software and what is in it. So you can take a look at that 2-minute video there. We also have a link to the website. The other offline tool that we wanted to highlight is Google Offline. And I think most schools are using Chromebooks because they're affordable device technology for our students. So here, this is a way for us to actually set it so that our students can take what they're working on in school and be able to work on it offline. So there's just a video in space, no technology required. I've also included a link to a video here that shows you, first of all, how to turn it offline, and second of all, what to do when you're assigning projects or assignments within Google Classroom to make them accessible for students offline. So that is our in terms of internet, and it need to use to close that digital equity gap.
The issue between our teaching and students' learning. Our goal as educators should be to provide students with the most authentic learning experiences that we can. Therefore, we need to consider how we access and use technology. Our goal as leaders will then be to support teachers in their own technology development so that they can move from using technology as just a substitution for learning and start creating more transformative experiences for their students. As effective leaders, we must model a commitment to professional learning, and through this, we engage members of the school community to build a shared understanding of current trends and priorities of our education system. Teachers need to grow professionally, and so do we. So how do we do that in a global pandemic? Here we have shared resources for professional learning for educators, including the EdTech team, which has webinars and videos that you can follow along, the EdTech magazine that you can subscribe to, the ISTE conference that runs June 27th to 30th, online and in San Antonio. We might not be able to travel there, but the online option is very appealing. And lastly, the FETC conference, which is the Future of Education Technology Conference. This was an online event this year that was actually free from January 26th to 29th. Though we missed the deadline this year, this is one that I would really keep an eye out for next year. There's great resources, webinars, and professional learning sessions that you can attend to really start bridging that gap between our technology usage and where our students need to get to.
Referring back to our last resource that looked at how digital inequity can also be defined by the way users engage with the technology, we wanted to share some ways to move our students and our teachers along the continuum and integrate their technology use in an inclusive and engaging way. When we meet our students and teachers where they're at in terms of technology use, we're better equipped to understand what new technology we can introduce to them in order to move them forward. For example, if we're taking a basic user, a student or teacher, who's accessing the internet mainly as an information seeker and trying to get them to incorporate the use of, let's say, a 3D printer into their teaching practice, that's a big jump. They're not there yet. So the continuum helps us to get a better sense of where to start and what steps to take in order to move forward. We've included links on this page that also connect to the Government of Canada and their commitment to supporting initiatives that help Canadians, young and old, gain access to digital literacy skills that they need to engage with technology in our world today. The Digital Skills for Youth page supports young people as they prepare to enter the workforce in the 21st century and adapt to the continually evolving technology demands. It helps them to prepare for jobs that aren't even created yet. We also wanted to share with you some of the links to different educational apps that you might use in your classroom that would support growth and development along this continuum as well. So you can see we have Khan Academy, Duolingo, Kahoot, Mathletics, Prodigy, Book Creator, all sorts. And there are obviously many, many more than what we've included here, but these were just a few that we know teachers are having success with. To end our look at supporting users in engaging in technology, we wanted to include the tools that we use to create this presentation. And so what we've included here are the links to Visme, which we use to create the infograph on our research and analysis page, Powtoon, which Joel used to create the Powtoon video on Calibri. We've screencastified each segment of this presentation so that we could then take it and turn it into a full length and put it into a wee video. The digital divide's an issue that we as educators and leaders are going to continue to have to learn to navigate. It's not going away. What we can do is work together to try and close the gap in terms of access and address the issues in terms of usage by supporting teachers and students in a way that makes learning authentic and meaningful and meets the standards set forth by ISTE and the Alberta Learning and Technology Framework. Again, I go back to the LQS. There are a number of the competencies that we can actually kind of target when we're looking at supporting technology and technology use in our schools. As leaders, we get to model a commitment to professional learning by learning about technology alongside our teachers. We can make it a part of our visionary leadership where we're looking at the bigger picture of moving our students into contributing digital citizens in our world. We look at leading a learning community and instructional leadership practices that support technology integration in a way that meets teachers where they're at. We also have the opportunity to understand and respond to larger societal issues and contexts, and we do that by recognizing that there are inequities in digital capacities. So it's important that we address it and acknowledge it. Remember that the goal of technology use in our education system is to provide students with transformative learning experiences that equip them with skills and knowledge to become contributing members of our society. If we fail to acknowledge the digital aspect of that citizenship call, we contribute to creating an even broader digital divide in their lives. Thanks for listening to our presentation.